workshop today. My name is Megan Spalding. I'm a career advisor with the Albers Placement Center. The Albers Placement Center is the career center for the business school, and we serve undergrad and grad students and alumni of Albers in all things career planning and career exploration. So it's nice to see you all and have you here today to join us. You're in for a real treat because you're going to get some really great helpful information. We've done this workshop, I don't know, probably
7 years.
7 years in a row, and I get something out of it every time. So I'm excited for you all to learn from our LinkedIn Pro today. We're going to record this. So if you have to leave early, we'll make sure to put it on our YouTube page. And we've got some announcements towards the end. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through the content that Rick has planned, and then we'll have some Q&A time at the end. As Rick is talking about something, if you have a quick question about that actual topic while we're in it, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can put it in the chat and we'll deal with it right then. Kind of bigger deal questions we'll save for the end. So without further ado, let me introduce Rick Sass. So Rick is a career coach and consultant for Lee Hecht Harrison, which is like an employment kind of, what would you say, Rick? Like
outplacement is what we call it.
Outplacement coaching company. He's also an Albers mentor. He's been a mentor for us for 15 years. And so some of you may have had the great chance to be his mentee. Prior to being in coaching, Rick was actually in the journalism industry for about 24 years, working for USA Today and Puget Sound Business Journal. So he knows how crucial and essential networking is. He's really good at it. And today we're going to show you kind of how to make networking easier and more effective through LinkedIn. So go ahead and turn it over to Rick. Thanks, Rick, for being here.
Well, thanks, Megan. Delightful to be here once again. I appreciate the great introduction as always. And I appreciate that you keep it short too, because there's a lot of stuff to cover here. And with that, I want to just dive right in. As Megan said, feel free to ask questions as we go along. Chat is probably the easiest to make sure we don't get things interrupted. So I'm going to just dive right in, and you'll see I'm on my LinkedIn profile here. And the first thing I always like to do, especially when I'm talking with students, is to make sure everybody knows how to turn their broadcasts off, just on the off opportunity that you may be making some changes while we're going through the session today. To do that, you'll want to, wherever you are in your LinkedIn profile, go up to the Me tab up on the top, click on that little Me tab, and then you're going to go down to where it says Settings and Privacy. Click on Settings and Privacy. And when you do so, you're going to land on the new and improved settings page. And I want you to go click on the Visibility tab over on the left-hand side, and then scroll down towards the bottom of the page. You'll see it says Share Updates, Share Profile Updates with your network. My setting is set to Yes over there. So you know that in essence, and by the way, that's the default setting on LinkedIn, is Yes. And so if yours is set to yes, you want to toggle it to no. Otherwise, you can inadvertently start sending out notifications to all of your connections saying, hey, Rick's updating his LinkedIn profile. And after a while, people would start getting back to you and saying, hey, please make it stop. Okay, so that's number one. Second thing I want to do is everybody go up to edit your public profile, which is the third option from the very top. When you do that, you're going to land on a page that basically is going to show you on the left 2/3 of the page what somebody doing a Google or a Bing search of your name, seeing the link and clicking on it, this is what they would see, what shows up over there on the left-hand side. The most important thing about this page, aside from the fact that there are a number of settings over here that you can pay attention to, and we'll talk a little bit about one or two of them very quickly. But the important thing is many of you probably don't have a personalized URL. And what I mean by that, you can see mine is right up here in the upper right corner. It says edit your custom URL. For those of you not familiar, the URL is basically your address, as it were, for your LinkedIn profile online. So you can see mine basically is www.linkedin.com/in/Rick Sass. For those of you who have something else, you're going to have something that probably has got a bunch of gibberish behind it, maybe a bunch of letters and numbers. What you do is you'll just go in and click the little nub of an edit pencil there, and you can go in and you can try to save a personalized URL. I will tell you all the characters there have to be lowercase letters or numbers, and the only special character allowed is a hyphen, which is something LinkedIn just put in a couple of years ago because they wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to do a personalized URL. So hopefully everybody has the opportunity to do that. That, by the way, as I'm sure all of your career coaches and people in the Career Center will tell you, that should be on your resume. If you've got business cards, it should be on there too. I know I put mine on the signature line of my emails because I want to, in essence, get people to go to my LinkedIn profile. That's the big thing about LinkedIn. Everybody's familiar with LinkedIn is important in terms of what it says about you and what you put out there for an image. You've got to remember that whatever stage you are throughout your career, your LinkedIn profile becomes really important because it is your online brand, your professional, as well as to a certain degree, your personal brand. And LinkedIn is important because we know statistically that more than 90% of potential employers will go and look you up, at least doing a Google or a Bing search before they've ever met you. From that perspective, if it's a professional related search, whether it's for an internship or a regular job, especially those recruiters, because they live on LinkedIn, they're going to go out and look you up on LinkedIn. Statistically, by the way, more than, as I say, more than 90% of employers will look you up on LinkedIn versus only about 50 to 55% that will even go looking for you on Facebook or some of the other social media sites. So important to make sure that we've got a professional brand out there on our LinkedIn profile. Now that said, what I want to do now is I want to go back to profile. Okay, so I'm just going to go up to the very top here, click on that little Me tab up there, view profile. I'm going to go back to my LinkedIn profile. And that's where, by the way, you can see right up at the top of the page, that's where your URL shows up. Okay, very quickly here, a couple of things should stick out to you. Number one, the visuals here. We know statistically that more than 40% of people in general are visual processors by nature, meaning those people, when they land on your LinkedIn profile, assuming they do, they're already kind of sizing you up and making some determinations and evaluations of you based on what they see. So number one becomes the headshot. That headshot becomes pretty important. They've done studies on this and found that people in general, and especially those hiring managers and recruiters, are 22 times more likely to click on and look at your LinkedIn profile if they can see your headshot. Okay, so that becomes important. And by the way, back there on those settings that we were looking at, which I'll just pop back over there really quickly, because down below here, there are a couple of settings. Your profile visibility by default should be on, make sure it is. Below that, if you do have a headshot, it'll show you profile photo options. The default setting here is public, and that is what I recommend to people, unless you're really, really squeamish about letting people see your headshot. But because I know that hiring managers and recruiters are 22 times more likely, I want to make sure that they're going to want to look at your profile by seeing that headshot. And that's why I don't even make it network or all LinkedIn members. I make it the public, because that way, even those people doing the Google and Bing searches will see your headshot. And I know they're 22 times more likely to click on it. Really quickly, by the way, in terms of these other options, the first degree connections, if you've been on LinkedIn at any length of time, you know first degree connections are the people that you've connected with, they've agreed to, back and forth. So when you go look at their LinkedIn profile, it will say first. Your network on LinkedIn, which is the next option down here, goes out 3 degrees. This is why I wanted to bring this up now. So your network goes out first, second, and third degree. Since I am connected to Megan, if I went and looked at somebody who is connected to Megan, but not to me, next to their name on their LinkedIn profile, it would show me that they were a second degree connection. Likewise, anyone connected to Megan's connections on a first degree basis are considered to be my third degree connections. Megan's second degree through that other person. And that is what comprises your network on LinkedIn. Network becomes particularly important because that is a critical element to you being found by recruiters. And I will really hammer this point home later on, but I can't stress enough: connect, 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 add connections. Add connections in the Career Center, your professors, the students that you're going to school with now, people that you know from growing up or your old neighborhood, your parents' friends. Yes, they can be a real help to you because they're connected to lots of other people. So I'll talk more about it later and I'll show you how to do it, but connections become important. And as an FYI, and I know Megan's heard this before, but my rule of thumb as a LinkedIn SME, a LinkedIn subject matter expert, is I believe you should have 10 first degree connections for each year of your age. So if you're 21, you should have at least 200, 210 first degree connections. If you're over 40, you should have over 400. And everybody shoots on LinkedIn to try and get into that 500 plus connections area, because especially, by the way, for anybody out there that might be going into marketing or sales, I can tell you that recruiters and headhunters really like to see you, especially once you've started your career, getting over that 500 connection level very quickly, because that's what your job is. It's making connections and nurturing and developing those network connections. So we'll talk a lot about networking because it becomes important. The other thing I want to stress to you here is the background shot. And so you see I've got a background shot here. By the way, I know I have permission and access to use this photo. It's a picture I took on a lovely evening like tonight. I happened to be out on an Argosy cruise with my wife out on Elliott Bay one evening a number of years back. There off the back of the boat was this great waterfront shot of the downtown Seattle skyline. I took a picture of it, thought, hey, that'd be a good background shot for my LinkedIn profile, because I believe your background photo should tell us something about you personally or professionally. In my case, the background photo says, yep, I live and work here in the greater Seattle area. And from a professional perspective, I work with clients in a variety of business and industries. Therefore, there's a bunch of buildings in a metro setting. By the way, I deal with clients all around the country, literally. And every once in a while, somebody will say, well, gee, Rick, I can't tell it's Seattle. I don't see the Space Needle there. And I'll say that's okay, because I'm dealing with clients in New York and LA and Chicago and Dallas and you name it. So it's a metropolitan setting. I'm dealing with clients in a variety of businesses and industries. In terms of what you put up there, and I will say this in terms of what's happening in the last year plus with COVID, I'm seeing more and more background photos that, and I think it's totally acceptable on LinkedIn, that are more casual. So it might be a picture of the mountains, Mount Rainier or Mount Baker, or it might be a picture of your favorite hiking trail. Or if you like to ski, maybe you have a snow skiing picture in the winter and a water skiing picture in the summer. Or if you love to play golf or play with your dog, you can put any of those kinds of things up there. It doesn't have to be a professional shot, but have something up there that's got some kind of a story behind it. So it becomes an icebreaker conversation. And for those visual processors that make up more than 40% of the world, they're sizing you up. So put something up there with lots of pixels that's going to give us a little conversation starter. Next thing, and I'm going to touch on it really quickly. And by the way, I'm going to show you some other LinkedIn profiles here too. I'm not going to just focus on mine because obviously I've been on LinkedIn a long time. You'll see here for my headline, and the way you get into the headline, by the way, is you go into the little edit pencil over to the right of your headshot over there. It's going to open up that edit intro box, and that's where you're going to see where you can put in your headline. For all of you that are students on the call here, this becomes pretty important. Mind you, it's pretty important for everyone, but it's really important in terms of you telling us who you are and why we should really care. I'm going to pop over and a former neighbor of mine, and you can see a couple things he's missing here. And number one is he doesn't have a headline. He also doesn't have a summary. Now, mind you, he's a junior in college and I haven't worked with him yet. The important thing here though, is he's got a good headshot. It's a professional looking shot. By the way, that smile matters. They've done studies and found if I can see his teeth in the smile as I can with Ryan there, that becomes a good photo because it scores well. What I would tell Ryan is he's got a good background shot, because obviously it begs the question, hey, Ryan, what is that? What does that mean to you? But beyond that, he needs a headline and he needs a summary. So to that end, I'm going to go over to one of my former mentee students. And here you can see his headline is the default setting, which is his current role at his current company. In this case, he's HR at Microsoft. Some of you might want to write his name down. Here's another one of my former mentees. And you notice what she's got here is marketing communications professional. So it describes who she is, what she does, okay? And that becomes fairly important too. So a lot of ways you can go with a headline. As you see, I've got a lot of things here. The reason I've got a lot of stuff here is to demonstrate to you what 220 characters of space looks like, which is the amount of space you've got available in that headline right now. 220 characters is a lot. I would recommend don't put that much. As a student, you want to tell me that you are a junior marketing major at Seattle University. You want to tell me that if you do have a job, that maybe you also are great at customer experience, customer service, those kinds of things. You can put in some key skills. The critical thing here now as a student is let me know you're a student. Tell me what you're studying so that I can know to look for you. The second thing to remember about the headline is the number one most important piece of real estate, as it were, on your LinkedIn profile for keywords. And that's why on my headline, I started off by saying career coach. My actual title at Lee Hecht Harrison is I'm a career associate, whatever that means. But I know nobody's going to go out to LinkedIn and say, oh, I need to find a career associate. So I try to climb into the heads of the people looking for someone like me and say, what might they put into this gigantic database of 750 million plus profiles looking for someone like me? So I put in there career coach, and then I use the space pipe space. That pipe, by the way, it's just a nice aesthetic looking straight up and down line. You can find it if you're on a regular keyboard. It's usually directly above the backslash, the one that goes upper left to bottom right. That straight up and down line looks nice aesthetically. You could put other things in there, stars if you like, or something of that nature, but I just think this looks good. Then I've got job search strategist, again, space pipe space, LinkedIn evangelist, space pipe space, career management advisor, space pipe space, LinkedIn subject matter expert, which is what the character limit used to be. And then when they went to 220 last year, I added the additional stuff. Okay, so headline, if you need help with it, go to the Career Center, ask them for some help. They'll be happy to help you walk that through. But think about the keyword skills you've seen in jobs or internships you're interested in. What are they looking for? Must be a great communicator. Great, tell me you're a good communicator. Must be innovative and creative. Great, tell me that you're an innovative strategist or something of that nature. But try to put in nouns that describe what it is that you do and what you're good at. Okay, really quickly, because this is something really important to all of you too. You notice underneath this kind of headline stuff at the top, down here it says show recruiters you're open to work. If you've not done this yet, you need to do it. This is how you let the recruiters know you're looking, okay? So what this does is it raises your hand to all the recruiters out there, by the way, other than the company you're currently working at. It won't let them know. But every other recruiter will see your hand is raised to say, I'm looking for a job potentially. You get to put in 5 titles, only 5 titles. So if you have a bunch of different things, and by the way, they have to be from their pre-populated list. So if I were to get rid of, let's get rid of job coach for a second, and you can see it says add title. I just go in there and start typing in, and it says, oh, do you want job coach or job superintendent? And I just click on it, okay? Same thing goes with your locations. You get 5 locations. And again, if I'm going to school in Seattle, but I'm originally from Denver, or I'm from San Francisco or wherever, I can put those in here again up to a total of 5. And it has to be from their pre-populated list. By the way, you can put in whole states if you want. If you are open to remote work, which these days all of us are, make sure you check that. And then check when your start date would be. I'm immediately actively looking, or I'm flexible, I'm casually browsing. And then down here is where it becomes important. If you're interested in internships, show internships. If you'll do contract, show contract. If it's just part-time, tell me part-time. But as you can notice here, you get to designate 1 or more of these. And then the ultra most important elements of this is down below in terms of who you let know that you're looking. I am not a big fan of the big green thing that wraps around your headshot saying I'm open to work. But for students, that may not be the worst possible thing. All the big difference here is the bottom one says, I'm just going to let the recruiters know. The top one says, I don't care who on LinkedIn sees it. I generally, for the people that I'm coaching that are your parents' age, I'll tell them not to do that. For students, I don't have a problem with you doing the wrap that thing around because you're eager to find something, especially if it's an internship you're looking for. So make sure that you let as many people as you can know about it. Okay. All right. Next thing I'm going to go to really quickly, I want to get through some things on the profile here so we can start doing searches and how to connect. You can see here, I've got a lot of stuff in my about section. The about is your summary on LinkedIn. You don't want the summary to be exactly the same as what you've got on your resume. But, you can see what Parker's got here is graduate of Seattle University, earned a BS in kinesiology and MBA, working towards career and operations and management fields of business. There are a lot of things that you can put in here in terms of what you say for your summary. If we go to look at what Erin had here, again, she just talks about kind of her experience a little bit. What I would suggest you do here on LinkedIn is, again, think about the keywords that are important to what it is you want to be doing, whether that is an internship that you're working towards or it's a regular full-time job. Look at those job descriptions and focus on the key skills. What are they looking for? And then tell me that. One of the great things about LinkedIn is you don't have to use that implied second person that all resumes are. You can see I start out first person. My passion is in helping professionals find their calling in life and land their dream job. I achieved that through blah, 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 blah. The one thing to take away from this is plug it full of keywords. Notice at the bottom, I stick in areas of expertise. This is what I call a brain dump. Just give me a brain dump of keywords that you know are important to what it is that you want to be doing next or that job that you're hoping to be moving towards. So again, be thinking about how can I get a lot of keywords in here. By the way, you've got 2,600 characters of space for your summary on LinkedIn, which is roughly 300 to 400 words. The one thing I would say looking at mine, the big takeaway is never go more than a sentence or two without putting in some white space. You don't want a big chunk of text because invariably people are going to glaze over and just scan for keywords. And while this about section is extremely important for keywords, you want people to be compelled to read what you've taken the time to write. So make sure that you do that. What I will say here too is in terms of what you put into that summary, here's where you want to emphasize skills. Here's where you want to emphasize some of the experience you've got. Think about what you're good at. What are the skills that you're seeing on those job descriptions that are important to you? Because between the summary and that headline up at the top, you're going to have 60% weighting of keywords. So those two areas are absolutely critical for getting your keywords in, okay? Really quickly, dashboard, I'm not going to talk about that at the moment unless we get time at the end. You're the only one who sees your dashboard. You should pay attention actually to the search appearances, which is a weekly snapshot. If you're a premium user of LinkedIn, you can look at who's looked at your profile for the last 90 days. Otherwise, you can just go out there every once in a while and take a look at it. Important thing down below is put all your experience. So again, if I go back to Ryan Madlener, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring Ryan up. He doesn't have a whole lot of talking about what he's done out here on these particular jobs, which is what I would tell him, at least put in a sentence or two that focuses on what you did with each one of these roles. He does have it down below for his KPMG. The thing I would tell him down here is break it up, put some white space in there, because this is where I talk about that being just too much. Oh, KPMG, PowerPoint, dashboard, got it. He also figured out how to put a certificate of completion there, which is great. You can attach things to any of your jobs. And by the way, jobs include internships. Doesn't matter if you got paid or not, it's experience. Put it up there in experience, okay? Especially until you get out there and have your regular first couple of jobs. Then you get rid of the internships and put them down below in other areas. You can see Ryan's got his education up there. He's getting 2 degrees simultaneously. He's getting both a bachelor's in computer science as well as his BS in statistical science. So get those logos. Now is when you put the dates on. By the way, 5 years after you graduate, you're going to take the dates off because you don't want people doing the math and figuring out how old you are, et cetera, et cetera. But make sure you put that in there. And when you do, by the way, one of the things that you can do is, and I'll go into edit my education down here. If I go into my Notre Dame here, for example, you can see I don't have years because frankly, I graduated long before even Megan was born. So I don't want to tell everybody that. Grades, if you, and by the way, if you're a 4.0, that's great. Once you graduate, nobody will ever ask you your GPA again, but they will want to know if you were cum laude, magna cum laude, summa cum laude. They want to know if you graduated with honors. They want to know if you were Dean's List. Those types of things, put them up there. Activities and societies. That's where you can demonstrate that you're a broad student in terms of your knowledge and expertise and what you've gained and that you've been active and busy and involved. All that becomes important too. So put all those things on there as well. Okay. All right. Really quickly here, I want to pop down to volunteer experience. Put your volunteer experience down here. All of you are doing volunteer experience, whether it's through SU or if it's through things with your church or community, things that you're doing. And again, they represent experience. So put these down here. Show me what you did. If you were part of something, tell me about it. Get those logos down there because those become important too, and show the world that you're active and involved. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on skills and endorsements, but get out there and get some skills out there that people can endorse you for. So you'll see Ryan's got problem solving, by the way, a good one for somebody doing what he does. Data analysis, same thing. And he's got C++, so I can see he's already learning some computer languages. He's got SQL, he's got Python, he's got Java. He's already going to be somebody that people are interested in because they can see these skills. Doesn't matter yet that he doesn't have a whole lot of endorsements. That reflects a little bit on how many first degree connections you've got, because only first degree connections can endorse you. And that's why you see I could endorse Ryan for those things if I so desired. But that becomes important as well as recommendations. Notice he's also got courses, and this is a good thing to do. So I can see his calculus, his computational structures. I can see his statistics. So any courses, especially if they're relevant to what you want to be doing in your internship or your next job, make sure you get them out there. And then a project, he's got a project out there as well. Okay, I want to bounce out to doing a couple of really quick things here because the clock is moving fast. First and foremost, I want to show you how to do some connections. Now, here's the thing about looking at Ryan's profile. You can see right here at the top, he and I are first degree connections, all right? By that, it means we've connected. Now, you see that his 201 connections are in blue, which means I can look at them. I refer to this, by the way, with everyone I talk to about LinkedIn as harvesting the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to click on his 201 connections, and it's going to show me some of the people I could connect with, because chances are, there's his brother, chances are maybe I've hung out with some of these same people, and I could go and see, like there's his Uncle Todd, who is a second degree connection. And I could go say, oh, I want to connect with Uncle Todd. I could do that and say, do it through one of the Madlener boys, or I could just reach out directly by sending him a message or asking to connect. Here's the thing. If I don't know this guy that well, which I've met him a few times, I'm going to go up and I could send the message, but I'm going to click connect, and I'm not actually going to connect with him here. But what I'm wanting to show you is you can do this with anybody. I'm going to add a note. And what I'm going to put in this note is, hey, Todd, I know it's been a long time, or hey, maybe we haven't even met, but I know your nephew, Ryan, and he suggested I might want to talk to you because I'd like to talk about your company or whatever it may be. So you've got 300 characters, which is not a huge amount of space, but I would say absolutely take advantage of those connections. Now, here's the other part of it. I'm going to show you how to do some advanced searches to basically add connections, because you want to be looking at how can I get closer to either companies I'm interested in or people who can open doors for me. Okay, so couple of things there. Number one, back when I was on Ryan's profile, one of the things I almost always do when I look at somebody's LinkedIn profile is I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to look at their interests. This is what defines me as a LinkedIn nerd, by the way. I'm going to click see all, and I'm always going to look at, in this case, he's not following any particular individuals, which is fine, but he's following companies. So I can go through and say, oh, is he following any companies that I want to follow? No, he's not. I'm following all the ones I want to. But if I went to Uncle Todd, by the way, I'm guessing Uncle Todd probably is following a few more companies. And I could just basically go and say, okay, what companies is he following that I may have an interest in? And so I could go look at Todd again and go to the bottom of his profile. And by the way, the other thing, I know I'm getting a little scattered here, but the other thing that I can do here on Uncle Todd's is when I'm up here at the top, and this is something you should always do when you are looking at a recruiter. By the way, notice I can't see his connections because I'm a second degree, but I can go over this more area over here, click on that or the three dots, and I could follow him. So let's say Uncle Todd was a recruiter. If I want, I can follow him. And then if he posts anything on LinkedIn, I can then like it or comment on it, which puts me on his radar. Even though I'm not connected to him, he sees that in his notifications that I've commented or I've liked it. And so he might then get the interest to go take a look at my profile and maybe find some things out about me. So you can see here, I can go through and, oh, if I want to follow Buffalo Wild Wings, or if I want to, it's just this easy. And by the way, it does not tell him that I did this looking at his profile. So it's nice and easy to go click on people's profiles, look at who they're following, and start following some of the same companies. Likewise, and again, taking the illusion that maybe Todd was a recruiter, I could look at the groups that Todd's a member of, and I could say, oh, well, hey, here's a hospitality food service group. There's 123,000 members. If I join that group, and I can do that by going out and clicking on it and request to join, if they let me in that group, then I can directly message anybody who's a member of that group. That's why groups are so important on LinkedIn. And I'm going to really hit you with the Seattle U groups here in just a second. But point being, anybody you share a group with on LinkedIn, you can directly message them most of the time. So I say most of the time because there's a setting that allows people to turn that off. So I'm going to go up here just for a second to talk about groups. I'm going to go next to the Me tab and click on this little grid they call the waffle because it looks like a waffle iron. I'm going to click on that, and when it opens up, I'm going to go down below here and click on groups. And that's where you'll see I'm in a bunch of groups. Yeah, I'm in more than 90. If you've got any that you've requested, there's another tab. But I'm going to go to my groups. And when I do that, you'll see this Harvard Business Review is a great one as an example because it's enormous. It's over 2 million members. So I can see that I'm a member of the group in the upper right up here. And the kind of the business of groups, if you've never been a member of a group, goes on here in the middle. This is where people post things, ask and answer questions, get involved in conversations, anything like that, okay? That's all great. But what I think groups are all about is right up here at the top where it says 2 million members, I can click on see all. And when I do that, all I have to do is know somebody's name. So I can look and say, hey, is there anybody in this group named John Smith? And I would bet there is. Matter of fact, I'd bet there's a bunch of them. Yep, there are. So as long as, oh, hey, I just met John Smith, I can send him a message. And that's directly one-on-one between him and me. Nobody else in the group sees it, just the two of us. So if I'm in a group, and that's why I'll always do that with recruiters, what groups are they in that I might be able to join? Maybe it's an alumni group or something like that. So if I join that group, I can send that person a direct message, and that becomes pretty important, okay? So while I'm going to go click back on the LinkedIn logo so I get out of the groups area, and I'm just going to type in up here, Seattle University. And there's Seattle University, by the way, and I'm going to spell it out because I want them all there. So I'm going to go click all results down below, because what I'm really looking for down here is groups. And so notice at the top, it said, oh, Rick, do you want people, jobs, posts, or groups? I want groups. I'm going to click on groups, and there I can see the SPU groups. I can see Seattle University alumni group. Okay, so I can click on that one. If I'm interested in joining, I could ask to join. By the way, all of you can join that group. I can't because I didn't go to SU. But likewise, if I want to put in Albers up there, I suspect, let's see, alumni of Seattle University. And one of the ways, by the way, that I can narrow this search too, if you're not familiar with Boolean syntax, is I'm going to go up here to get rid of the Seattle Pacific stuff. I'm going to put parentheses around that. Oh, it's still got SPU. So any event, I'm going to try and find all of the Seattle University things and try to join some of those groups. Okay,
Rick, can I jump in real quick?
please do.
The Seattle U alumni one is currently open to grad students and folks who have graduated. I think seniors, you can join it in your last quarter. And then there's a group that's open to everybody in Albers called Albers School of Business and Economics Student and Alumni Group. It's quite the mouthful, but so start by searching Albers and then hopefully it would pop up.
Yeah, so that's what I just did
There
here.
it is, the first one
And
there.
there it
Yeah.
is right on top, and I can click on that.
And anybody can join that one at any time.
And as you can see, there's all your favorite players out there. There's Mary Lou, there's the dean, and so forth. So once you've joined that group, leverage the group. That's the important thing. When you get into groups, the nice thing about groups is there's privacy in there to a degree. I mean, obviously you're in there with all of these other people. In this case, you can see I've got 27 connections there, and there's 2,969 members, so almost 3,000 members. But groups become critically important, okay? So join those groups. Start with those Seattle U and Albers School groups, because those are going to be some of your best friends down the road. Here's the next thing I want to show you how to do. And while we're talking about search, I know everybody's looking to search for companies. So you saw I had Expedia open over here. So I pretend I typed in Expedia, and I'm looking for a job at Expedia, number one. Now, I'm going to go to Expedia. And when I land on Expedia, by the way, just to show you, I'm going to unfollow Expedia here for a second, just because I can, and I want to show you how this works. So I'm going to click follow Expedia. Notice when I do, it says, oh, Rick, do you want to follow Trivago? You want to follow, you can do that too. You can also look over on the right-hand side. It'll say, oh, booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb, and you can see I'm following all those too. Most importantly here is now I'm following this company. Down below here, you notice it says about, post, jobs, life, people. The jobs tab and the people tab are the most important tabs for you. I'm going to click on the jobs tab here because I might be looking for a job here. Now I can go scroll through and look at all the jobs they've got, which it looks like they've got 666, which is a lot. So I could do a search, but most importantly, I want to create a job alert. Remember back when I showed you how to do that from your main page, your profile page, how to set up to let the recruiters know you're looking? Doing this, and by the way, I'm going to just put in here intern, and you notice it says internship trainee or intern. Let's see if it's got internship. Yeah, let's say I'm looking for a summer internship or a marketing internship or a management or a student internship, whatever you want to put, and then put where you're looking. So I can start putting Seattle, greater Seattle area, and I can create that job alert. Once I've done that, by the way, it's going to do a couple of things. Number one, that jobs tab up at the top, it'll now start feeding me jobs specifically to Expedia related to that particular job, but it'll also raise my hand again to the Expedia recruiters saying, hey, Rick wants an internship at your company. Okay, so important. The other important thing is people. I'm going to go click on the people tab here because this is where your connections become so important. There are 29,737 employees. That's a little overstated. That's anybody who's got Expedia on their LinkedIn profile. So what I want to do here is I'm going to be doing an advanced search. I basically, when I click there, show more, you see all these lovely little graphs. So I can say, oh, I only want people in the greater Seattle area. Great, I can click on that. Or if I want to say, oh, I only want people in Denver. Well, I can start typing in here Denver, and there it is. And I can narrow the search. So you can see it's gone from 27,000 to 131. Now I could also go where they studied. Let's just for fun, see if Seattle U is over there anywhere. I don't know if it is or not. Let's try Seattle University just to see. Nobody fit that. So what if I get rid of greater Denver area? And now I see 111 employees went to Seattle University at Expedia. Okay, now we're talking. Notice it says next under there. I've got 2 other pages of things I can look at. Oh, I'm a finance major. I only want to look at those people. Or do we have recruiters down here? I don't see recruiter there, but that's okay. I could look for human resources. So I can narrow the search. There's a 3rd page, by the way, that also shows you what they say they're skilled at. Oh, I just want the leadership people or whatever, okay? Idea, I've got it down to a manageable search. I've done this advanced search. There are the criteria I put in. The fun part of this and what becomes critical is here those people are. So I can go and reach out to them. Now, the easy ones are the people like Caitlin McNeil because I share a connection with her, or Eric Peterson. The little bit tougher ones are the people like Amy or Wade down here because it says I'm not connected. I can still go and reach out to him, even though there's a little lock on message because I'm not a premium user of LinkedIn. I can go to the 3 dots over here. Always when you see the 3 dots on LinkedIn, that means that's where the good stuff is we don't want you to find. I'm going to go down there and I could follow him, or I could say connect. And just as I did with Uncle Todd, I could reach out and send him a message. What I want to say in that message is, hey, Wade, I see that you are at X company at whatever it is. What are the commonalities? And that's where you want to work off of, okay, this is a Seattle U person. I went to Seattle University. I've got an interest, and play the student card. Play the student card. I'm a student at Seattle University. I'll be graduating in the spring, or I'll be graduating next year. And I'm really interested in your company. Don't say, I want you to find me a job or I need help getting an internship. Say, I'd love to chat with you if you've got 20 or 30 minutes for a quick Zoom call or a phone call. This is a great thing about Zoom. Doesn't matter where they are. You can reach out, have that conversation. And once you've gotten a chance to tell them a little about yourself, hey, I'm just curious, what's it like working there? What kinds of people are successful? What's the culture like? All of those things that are very safe questions, and you want to let them know that you're interested. So ideally what you do then is you planted a seed at the end of the conversation, ask them if they would be willing to connect with you. And by the way, I see at least 6 of you have reached out and asked to connect with me today. My rule of thumb is we need an hour one-on-one time, so keep that in mind. And that one-on-one time is not this. It's got to be one-on-one, just the 2 of us. Anyway, so use this and you can do the exact same kind of search for any company or any school. So again, case in point, if I go up and do Seattle University again, and I click on Seattle University, that same kind of search I just did for Expedia, I can do the exact same search here. I'm not going to look at jobs. I'm going to look at alumni. Even though I didn't go to Seattle U, oh, I just want the greater Seattle area. Oh, I just want people that work at, Microsoft or whatever. And I can narrow the search by using all of these different criteria and saying, who am I interested in reaching out to? Oh, I want just the human resources people. So again, I can go and do these searches, find the people. Again, if I've got 2nd degrees, and these 2nd degrees are worth their weight in gold, those people can open a door. So I'm interested in Christine Brosio. So I'm looking at her, and instead of going the direct route, I say, oh, I see Dana and Kim and Mary Lou, you're connected to her. What are the odds, right? So I could reach out to Mary Lou and say, hey, Mary Lou, you know this person I just did the search on. Would you be willing to introduce me to Christine? Or shy of that, would you be willing to share her contact information with me? And can I mention your name as somebody who referred me? Okay, so all of this becomes critically important, and that's why you want to add connections, add connections, add connections, add connections. Okay, let's see, covered most of the things on my list. One other thing I wanted to mention, in terms of following companies, I want to make sure that you follow every company you've got an interest in working for and their competitors. But ideally, if you've got a target list of companies you're working on, get all of those companies that you're following. And that's where, again, if I'm looking at Christine's profile, even though I don't know her, I'm going to go down to the bottom because I'm the LinkedIn nerd, and I'm going to look at what companies is she following, what groups is she in, and you can see I'm following most. So if you want to follow a company, oh, I'm not following Tom Douglas, well, guess what I am now. And again, it does not alert her to the fact that I did it off her profile. So you want to follow a bunch of companies, that's one thing you can do off of my profile, okay? Again, I could also join groups that she may be in. There you go, I love it. She's in the Albert School alumni group, so join that group. Okay, Megan, really quickly, because I know we've used up about the majority of the time we had allotted for the presentation part here.
Yes, sir.
Things that I forgot to mention or that I really need to jump in on here.
The only thing I would say is, well, maybe you can speak to this like a minute, Rick. So, students, we have 2 big events coming up next week. Grad students on Tuesday, we're having a
Yes.
networking event. Rick might be there, so if you want to meet him directly, but it's going to be virtual through a program called Hopin. So, Rick, if a student goes to like a networking event or something like that right now,
Yep.
what's good practice maybe for LinkedIn before? Maybe
Yeah, great question, Megan. Great
studying the
question.
people you want to meet with.
Yeah,
and
so
then
those of you who've been in the mentor
making that
program,
connection.
or for something like what Megan is mentioning, if you see ahead of time some of the people you're going to potentially be talking to, go look at their LinkedIn profile, check them out, so you know some things in common, or you know that, oh, he went to Notre Dame, so don't mention that Notre Dame's football team wasn't too good or something like that. But also you get a chance to go through and, as Megan did with my introduction, you can go through and take a look at, oh yeah, so I can see that Rick, did some things at Seattle Pacific and was an instructor at Bellevue College and has worked at LHH. And oh yeah, we get back to his USA Today stuff. And you can see that I got my MBA from the University of Kansas, et cetera, et cetera. So you can really go to school to have some areas of common interest or areas to bring up in the discussion. And that way it makes it more interesting because we all know people love to talk about themselves and their experiences and their background. And that's what you should be doing at these events. Get them talking about themselves. Make sure that you've got your little elevator pitch down so they know a little bit about you and why you're interested in talking with them. Oh, Rick, I saw that you worked at USA Today. I've been really interested in media. Would love to hear about that. What's that like? So yeah, absolutely. The other thing to do, to Megan's point too, is after the event, make sure you've taken down the names so that you can then reach out. And at very least, reach out and ask if the person would be willing to connect. Or if, like me, they've got this little rule that says, I need an hour of one-on-one time. Hey, Rick, I'm going to send you a message on my intro to you and see if we can't set up a quick conversation to have on a Zoom call or a phone call. You can certainly get people to give you 20 or 30 minutes of time. Okay.
And then
Excellent
another
question.
event we've got next week is career fair. That's open to all students. So same kind of thing, right? And I think most recruiters would say they have open networks on LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
because they use it to find candidates, they'd like you to be proactive and connect with them. So
absolutely, absolutely. So that brings up a really, really good point too that I want to hit on really quickly here, Megan, too. And that is, I'm going to go out and do an advanced search here, and I'm going to go into the search window, and now I'm going to just hit search a second time. I'm going to hit enter rather a second time. And LinkedIn says, okay, what are you interested in? I'm going to click people. And by the way, those posts, that post tab you see, that's a great thing to look at if you're looking for a specific individual at a specific company, like, oh, a recruiter. You can go look at, have they posted anything? I'm going to click here, all filters. And now I'm doing advanced search on LinkedIn. So let's say, because sticking with Expedia, I want to go down and I'm going to go for a location, Seattle. And when I see greater Seattle area, I'm going to click on it. For a company, I'm going to put in here Expedia. And when I see the logo, I'm just going to click on it. And now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. By the way, you could put in, if I wanted to put in Seattle U for a school, I could. So, really quickly, I'm going to put in Seattle U, and there it is. And now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to the very bottom, because the very bottom, these keywords you see down here, those are the critical search elements. And I'm going to put in here recruiter, okay? And I'm going to click show results. Now, when the results come up, no results came up. Okay, I don't know why that is. Let's get rid of.
Probably Seattle U, I'd say, Rick. There might not be any.
There may not be a recruiter from Seattle U, so I'm going to unclick that. And now I've got 13 results. Thank you, Megan. So now I'm going to look at these people, and to the point I made before, she says connect, but Pam says no, she wants me to follow. I'm going to go look at Pam's profile, and you can see, oh, she's got the big, hey, we're hiring. Okay, I'm going to follow her because I can. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to look at her profile. That's interesting. I'm not a fan of that, but that's a different conversation. I'm going to look at her background. Oh, she was at Microsoft for quite a while as a university recruiter for a year, 2 years, almost 3 years there. Went to Colgate. I know about Colgate because I grew up in upstate New York. And look at her recommendations. By the way, recommendations worth their weight in gold. Get them now if you can get them from your professors. One mistake she made here is it looks like she only speaks French. I'm betting she speaks English. Make sure if you put down a foreign language, put down that you are a native bilingual speaker of English. It's not a given. Okay, now I'm going to go specifically to her groups, and I would probably have a hard time joining the women's group, but I could probably join some of these other groups. Probably not the, well, maybe the IT specialist, but I'm going to look for specific groups, especially some of these bigger ones that I could conceivably join. She's an AWS group too. An application lifecycle management group, I could probably join that. Northwest Recruiters, no, probably not. But there are some groups here that I could definitely join, including this corporate recruiter one. I am a member, by the way, of the recruiter.com network. So I know that a lot of these groups, I'm just looking to see, are there any groups I could conceivably join? Even as a student, you might be able to join this group. And by the way, again, play the student card everywhere you can. This is a software related thing, but ask to join groups. You can ask to join up to 20 groups at a time. And even if I can't find a group that she's in that I can join, I can follow her and I can message her. And even though you see the more, this is where it says, oh, we don't want you to connect. I can still connect, even though she's a recruiter and she doesn't want me to, but I can if I'm so inclined. Okay. All right. Other questions that may be out there.
Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat. We've got a couple minutes.
Yep.
And I was just going to say, I've been working with a lot of students lately who, and I know my whole team, you've submitted so many applications online. You're just feeling burned out. Yeah. It feels like you have no control. You can't, you're not hearing back from anybody. This is a great way to now be proactive. So, okay, I'm not hearing back, or I submitted my online application. What more can I do? Let me go see if there's an alum at the company. Right. Or let me see if I can connect with a recruiter, so that you're not just standing back and waiting.
Yes. And that's a great point, Megan. Absolutely be proactive. Some recruiters are open. A lot of them are not, but some recruiters are open to letting people reach out and ask to connect with them. Others, even if you just click on their profile, and here's the thing I emphasize in the classes I teach, get your profile down to where it's good. It looks good. Work with the Career Center folks on this. Work with your professors. Work with anybody you know who's an expert on LinkedIn, or even good. Go look at other people's profiles. That's one of the things you can do, is look at other people's profiles. If you know somebody that's got a good profile, work with them. But get your profile looking good, add connections, okay? And then go look at people's profiles and make sure that you're visible. It's one of the settings which by default you are, but make sure you're visible so that they can see you looked at their profile. And then reach out to them. As Megan said, it doesn't hurt to reach out. As a matter of fact, we know the recruiters live on LinkedIn. They spend 90+% of their time on LinkedIn. So leverage that. I will tell you, by the way, just applying to things online, in my experience as a career coach for about a dozen years, I can tell you the odds of you getting people to respond to you that way are kind of in the low single digits. You have to do that to a degree, but don't spend an enormous amount of time on it. Spend your time leveraging LinkedIn, working your connections, and doing the actual networking. Remember that LinkedIn is actually a networking tool. It's not the beginning and the end all of all things. Okay.
But there was a question on profile. How much do the endorsements matter? Do recruiters even look at those that much?
Great question. Yeah. So depending on the recruiters, I will say this, since, most of the people on the call obviously are students, any endorsements and recommendations you can get are valuable. The recommendations especially, if you're going to be going to ask a professor for a recommendation, coming out of school or going to grad school, then, ask for a recommendation from them on LinkedIn if they're on LinkedIn. Thing to remember is you can only get recommendations from first degree connections, so you have to connect first. But the other thing is, you often have to coach people on what you'd like them to say. So if you go to a professor and maybe you've been a great student in his or her class, which is great, but let's say you go to her and say, could you write me a recommendation on LinkedIn? She might be curious of, okay, what do you want me to say in there to emphasize? So if you can give them some ideas, and that's where you have to kind of know yourself and know what's important to what you want to be doing. Oh, I organized our project and I was the one who kept the group together and on task because, I'm a strong J. I really am all about getting things precisely done, having a plan, working the plan, and all the details. That's what I'm strong at. So if you could emphasize how I did that for the project in your class, that would be really helpful. You can do the same thing for any jobs you've had. If you've had a supervisor or even coworkers who could say good things about the specific talents and skills that are going to be hopefully important to what you want to be doing next, that's what becomes important. So good time to ask for recommendations. Time being, endorsements are really helpful, especially get them from your classmates. That's one of the other things I had wanted to mention, by the way, is connect with your classmates because you never know who they turn into, who they're going to be someday. So case in point, if I put down, where is Mike? He might just have Michael. One of the guys that I happen to, well, I'll do this. Some of you may have heard of a guy by the name of Michael Dell. Oops, can't type today, sorry. Michael Dell of Dell Computer fame. And he's only got 2 L's. I'm a second degree connection to Michael Dell. And the way I'm a second degree connection is through Michael Massetti. Michael Massetti, who you see here, lived across the hall from me at Notre Dame. That's why you can see we both are hair challenged. But we lived across the hall, literally from each other for 2 years at Notre Dame. And you can see, not only has he been at Gartner for the last 6 years, before that he was at Clarisonic, he was at Dell, Clarisonic rather. He's had all these great experiences, and you just never know who is going to become whom and who they're connected to. So you can see I've got 15 common connections, but I can tell you Michael's got 7,000 connections on LinkedIn. You think I'm good with 1,700, he's got 7,000. This guy is one of the go-to guys in the world of moving things around in supply chain. He's a recognized expert in supply chain. So connect to people because you never know who they're going to turn out to be. And it looks like I've also got 2 other current connections that are also connected to Michael Dell. So connect to people that you know now, connect to those connections of your parents. Those all become handy and helpful. Any other questions, Megan?
Not in the chat. I've been kind of answering some too, Rick, but Julian asked, with your photo, do you make it just to LinkedIn members viewable or the public?
I like to make it visible to public simply because that statistic that I quoted saying people are 22 times more likely to look at your profile if they can see your headshot. So I recommend making it a good headshot. By the way, selfies are fine. My daughter is proud of the fact that hers was taken with her iPhone. But head and shoulders, ideally dress the way you would on a job, but make it visible to as many people as you're comfortable doing. I do say public.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to be cautious or conscious of time for Rick and for you all. You might have to go off to class or work or other things. So Rick, thank you so much. This is always such valuable information. I got a couple of things out of this time, as I always do.
Great. That's great.
So we're very grateful. And students, thank you for joining us today. If you want to work more on your profile, or you want to kind of get more tips or kind of, review some of these tactics again, any of us in the placement center are available for appointments to talk through this. My team's on the call, Justin, Mary Lou, and Abby. We're all available. You can book online with us and we can kind of walk you through some of these, how to, reach out to these alumni, what to say, what strategies. We can kind of, expand on what Rick has talked to us about today. So we hope this was helpful for you. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine.